Welcome, guys, to the nominee interviews for Epoch 7. Today is the first interview that we have with one of our nominees, and today I've got Blickter with me. What's going on, my man?
How's it going, Taryn? It's pretty good. How about yourself?
I am good. I am looking forward to these. It's been a while since we've done it, 6 months to be exact. So it's cool to kind of revisit this format, have a chat with you guys, see where you guys stand on a lot of the issues. Let's not waste any time, and let's jump into. I can't believe I'm asking this question again, but about governance pay, council pay. So it's been a thing for quite a while now. It clearly hasn't been put to rest. What's your take with the current structure of the council pay? We've just got the recent IIP talking about how we're going to be moving that or considering moving that to instead of being paid in USD into ILV. And now that we're actually looking at and changing it into blind voting as well. But let's ignore the blind voting and focus on the pay structure. What are your thoughts on that? And something that the community has really been wondering, if you did get elected, what are your thoughts on potentially forfeiting your council pay for the good of the Illuvium DAO and the runway?
Yeah. So as far as the change from paying council in USDT to ILV, I mean, Danny is on board with it, and honestly, I don't think anybody's more qualified than the CFO to make a decision like that or to give guidance at least on something like that. So I think making the change, if it's easier for Illuvium Labs to pay council that way, or for the Illuvium DAO to pay council that way, that definitely should happen. I don't think there's any question about that. As far as forfeiting like the entirety of pay for council, I think if it can be shown that it's a necessity for council to forfeit their pay for Illuvium to be able to release the game, obviously the priority is to release the game, and runway is super important to keep track of. And I think I would need some further guidance from Danny. I think if things are that tight though, it's pretty bad. I do think the council deserves to be paid long term. I don't agree with the idea that council should just get nothing, because it's really hard to determine from the outside looking in how much work the council does. I know council members who are currently serving have mentioned that there's some things that are done behind the scenes that they can't share with the public because they're related to the team's financials or something else that's under NDA or something that could, I don't know, potentially be harmful to the DAO. We just really don't know what's getting done behind the scenes, right? So it's really pretty difficult from the outside looking in to make an assessment. If the only things happening are the things that we see as the public, such as like council meetings and occasionally voting on IIPs, I think the current pay is too high. I think it needs to be reduced if that's the case. I think it could potentially be reduced a bit. I think the amount of compensation should be proportional to the workload. So,
Yeah.
But like I said, it's hard to gauge what the workload actually is from the outside.
So let's kind of play ball here, and let's say that, for example, let's theoretically just say that they are just rocking up to council meetings and having those few votes. If it was up to you, what would you think a fair compensation for that would be? I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but
I think something on the order of like $1,000 to $2,000 a month would be reasonable for staying informed on the issues, keeping in touch with the community, which not all of the council does, but some of the council does. I know a lot of the council has said that they read through the Discord chats and don't necessarily comment, which is fine. But yeah, I don't think it needs to be $5,000 a month to stay informed. There's a lot of people in our community who are informed, who stay up to date on what's going on Twitter, what's going on Discord, and I don't think that just attending meetings and voting on IIPs is worth $5,000 a month.
Yeah.
So yeah, somewhere in the realm of 1,000 to 2,000. But if there's more than that, I don't know. What the right number is.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, that wasn't actually a question that I did prep. I just kind of you kind of took it there, and I just wanted to put you on the spot a little bit.
That's a fair question.
Yeah. So let's move on to the next question. So in the last 6 months, what do you think? How have you contributed to Illuvium, and why do you think this has actually been helpful for the DAO?
Yeah. So it was almost exactly 6 months ago I became a lead moderator. So in those 6 months, I've pretty much been doing lead moderator things, helping out users with questions, some of the stuff we do as mods isn't like necessarily super visible, but we do help a lot of people with kind of tech support type stuff with support from the team as well if we need it. But the reality is that we don't often need team members to be stepping in for questions that we've seen before, things that are obvious fixes. So do a lot of troubleshooting, a lot of helping people understand how the ecosystem works, some amount of tech support, beta support, staking support. Yeah, just I guess educating new people to the community. There
Yeah.
hasn't been a ton, but there have been. I've noticed, anyways, that there's been an uptake of new people joining the community in the last
Mm.
month or two. So that's been really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, I'm curious because you've got a bit of a unique perspective in regards to being a moderator. The same way that you kind of mentioned that a lot of the things that the moderators do aren't visible. Do you think, and is your assumption that that is also the case for council members?
it's entirely possible. Yeah. The reason
Yeah.
that things aren't. This might be sharing a little bit too much, but we've moved. I think most people know we've moved over to sort of a thread system for helping people out with their issues.
Mm.
Just because sometimes people like to share their wallet address or share
Yeah.
transaction IDs, things like that. And they don't necessarily want to publicly dox themselves, but looking at that information can be super helpful to figuring out, like, if somebody got scammed or if a transaction just didn't go through or if they, approved tokens for trading but didn't actually make the trade. There's a lot of stuff for new people in crypto that can happen. Having those private threads where moderators and
Yeah.
Rich and Chris and the team can see them it's been super helpful. So a lot
Yeah.
of stuff happens sort
Absolutely.
of like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. All right, so this next question I'm actually very, very excited for. It's what unique value proposition can you offer that Illuvium that separates you from the other nominees?
Yeah. So I'm not sure if this is like a fully unique thing. I know there are other moderators running. I know Thulke's running.
Mhm.
He's a strong candidate as well. He's a really good moderator. Got a lot of respect for him. But one thing I think I offer that potentially nobody else offers, I just like to look at problems and issues sort of from first principles. So like, I guess in layman's terms, I like to zoom out as far as possible when I'm looking at something. So look at it from the biggest picture perspective I can and see if it makes sense in that context, and then sort of step it down into more complexity and see if everything still adds up, right? I think it's really easy for people to get lost in the details, and I think I think I'm somebody who has a thorough enough understanding of the different workings of the complex ecosystem that Illuvium has, where I
Mhm.
can kind of conceptualize and put things in their place from the top level, and then work it down into like some specific details. Um, yeah, so I guess that's sort of where I
Yeah.
see my value to a council.
Yep. No, that's fair. That's fair. All right. So this is a bit of a tough one because we actually haven't seen publicly anything about governance V2, but we are closer than ever to it being proposed. So, taking away the fact that we don't know what's included in this proposal, what do you think are the major flaws in Governance V1? And if it were up to you, how would you amend that in Governance V2? How would you like to see Governance V2 being played out?
Yeah, so I think one of the areas where governance V1 falls short is engagement. And I think
Mhm.
engagement falls short because of accessibility. Like that doesn't make much sense. Just those are kind of just words, right? Um, I think it's hard for somebody who has an idea that they want to turn into governance to bring that idea forward to the DAO in in the IIP format, or even in a way where it's possible to get much community feedback. It seems like right now you need to be a council member or a super well-known community member to get any traction with any idea. Um,
Mm,
and I think it has to do with the visibility of people's proposals. I think the change to the forum system we've done on Discord in a lot of ways is really, really good. But
mm,
I think there's a lot of people who don't even know that the ideas section exists, and they're just not engaging with new governance ideas that are being posted there. So I think that's a
yeah,
huge problem because our community has some really talented people. We have some really well educated people. We have people who have some really good ideas, and not capitalizing on those ideas and those people and their knowledge. I think that's just a huge mistake.
yeah. Yeah,
So I would like to see that improved on in V2.
absolutely. All right, that's a fair point. Is there anything else that you'd like to see amended in V2 or really highlighted in V2, or is that going to be the major thing for you?
I think a little bit more specialization um, and structure to how the council is composed would be good,
Mhm.
because I mean, this is going to sound like a dick move, so don't hate me for this, but like, it's entirely possible that we got a council of like, say, like 5 content creators, and I don't
Yo,
think that's like it's a. I, I don't know if that would result in the strongest council that represents all the aspects
yeah,
that a council needs to handle. Right? There's a lot of different facets that are important on a council. There's people like Santiago who represent like the big investors, and they're like Kieran said that Santiago is somebody that he uses as a resource pretty
mm,
often, right? To bounce ideas off and kind of get that perspective on things.
mm.
Um, yeah, and then you've got somebody like Daraji who works for a huge company and he's got a lot of knowledge about, I don't know what you want to call it, kind of the more
just the
professional approach to
just the corporate
data.
insights. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think that there's no structure like that in governance V1, and I think that
yeah.
would be a good thing to have in V2.
Not interesting. That's very interesting. All right. So let's say, again, we are looking to push a governance V2 fairly soon after this election. If that were to happen and it was approved during your term, would you be willing to cut your term short to conduct a new election to transition to V2? So potentially risking your position in the current council.
Yeah, so I think if governance V2 is a net benefit to ILV holders, um, and the community receives it well,
Mhm.
there's no reason that I wouldn't cut my term short to do so.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, fair play. Fair play. There's not much to dive in deeper there. All right, and the final question I have today, man. Well, you've been running through these quickly. If you had to write a formal IIP to clarify council member duties and time commitments, what would be included in that IIP, and what are you expecting from council members once they get elected?
Yeah, so I guess the way that I view it, kind of back to the first principles thing, the role of a council member should kind of be the following. So you should be making the best decisions possible based on the best research and data possible, which lead to the most net benefit for ILV holders. ILV holders elect you as a council member. You're supposed to be representing them. And so you should be making decisions that are the most beneficial for ILV holders. Um, there's some room for interpretation of over what time frame that needs to be. Personally, I always have had a long outlook on Illuvium. Um, so yeah, I guess duties need to stem from that. Um, it is really hard to say because, sort of like we talked about earlier, we don't necessarily know all of the things that the council does,
Mm.
and they're not able to share all of those things. So it's kind of hard to quantify what the time commitment should be.
Yep.
I think that the time commitment should be at minimum however much time it takes to do your job properly. So
Yep.
whatever research needs to be done, whatever community engagement needs to be done, attending meetings. I think
Yep.
it doesn't. It,
So
it
yeah.
shouldn't matter how much time that is. That should be the appropriate amount of time commitment.
Yeah. So you kind of mentioned just there again. You said community engagement, research, attending meetings. So those are some of the duties. Is that the assumption that you're making that that's what they're doing? Is there anything else that you believe or you're assuming that they should do or they are doing right now in regards to duties?
Well, we haven't seen many new IIPs proposed by this council, so um, I am aware that they've been consulting on governance V2. So
Yeah.
drafting new IIPs should be a part of council duties. I do view that as a part of their duties, especially with the way that governance V1 is set up, where it
Mhm.
is difficult for an individual community member to get an idea into IIP form, into being voted. Um, I think council should be assisting with that, but um, under governance V2, yeah, potentially not so much that.
Yeah, fair play. All right, awesome, man. Yo, that is actually all of the questions that we had today. It's a super short one, just a quick round to really get people to know where you stand on some of these things. But Matt, I appreciate you coming on. Is there anything that you kind of want to say to end off before we shoot off? Where can people find you? Where can people ask you questions?
Yeah, I check Discord pretty much every day. We usually spend between 5 and 12 hours on Discord, at least reading channels, not always engaging with people. But yeah, you can find me on Discord if you have any questions or want to ask my perspective on anything that we didn't cover here. Feel free to reach out. My DMs are open. I won't DM you first, but
Awesome. Yeah, and I'll put a little at so they can ping you in the video as well, so they should be able to reach out to you quite easily. But man, Blickter, appreciate you. Always a pleasure, and good luck with the rest of the election. Hope you have a solid campaign.
thanks to you for doing these interviews again. It's I know it's a bit of time for you to do, and yeah, I think it's a really good thing to do for the community. So
No, well, I'm glad that we can actually do it in an official capacity now that I am internal. But but no, yeah. Everyone watching, appreciate. Make sure that you subscribe, like all of those things, just to keep up with everything coming up. We're gonna have a lot of governance content coming out very soon on our second channel, Illuvium Plus. So be sure to follow that. But anyway, guys, appreciate you guys. Peace out.